Continuously checking in with yourself to say, is this really the type of business that I want? Does it fit with the goals that I have for my lifestyle or what freedom in business means to me? Because it's different for everyone.
Hey everyone, welcome to Time to Thrive. This is your host, Bethany Meadows. It's time to learn how to simplify, systematize, and scale your business. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Kate Erickson to the show. As the powerhouse behind the systems and processes at Entrepreneurs on Fire, Kate has helped build one of the most successful business podcasts in the world. In fact, it's one of my favorites. She's a master at streamlining operations, creating content, and empowering entrepreneurs to achieve their biggest goals. If you're ready to take action and create freedom in your business, you won't want to miss what Kate has to share. Welcome to the show, Kate.
Thank you so much, Bethany. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you because I listen to the podcast all the time, and
Thank you.
you guys have some amazing guests. So like with every guest, we have our super random questions. So I need you to pick a number between 1 and 5.
4.
4. If you were going on a road trip, what are the 3 must-haves you couldn't leave without?
Oh, wow. Okay. Just to have in the car or to have at my destination?
Either one.
Okay.
What are you
Well,
not leaving without?
a beverage, so coffee, water, something to that effect. I'm pretty obsessed with having a beverage at all times. My phone, communication,
Yeah,
Google
that's a
Maps,
good one.
and a partner, someone
Yeah,
to go with me.
I'm gonna say a person. So
I
that's
didn't know whether to choose my husband or my son, so I'll just say a partner.
there you go, a traveling partner.
Yeah.
Um, entrepreneurs really do struggle with day-to-day operations because they're entrepreneurs. And
Mhm.
the thing about entrepreneurs is they chase rabbits and they have all these ideas going all the time, and they're passionate about every single one of them. And sometimes it's hard for them to really just kind of work on the business rather than the fun part, which is the creativity and the innovation and all the things. So, what's a first step if somebody's like recognizing, oh, I have no systems whatsoever, I'm Captain Chaos over here. What's the first step to kind of bringing order into their business?
Well, if it's a possibility, I'm a big fan of being able to hire someone who can help you with the things that you're not great at or that you don't enjoy doing. I mean, that's why John and I work so well together, because we're great at different things. And that has served both of us and our business and our audience really, really well. But if you're not in the position to hire someone, then you know what? Actually, regardless of if you're in the position to hire someone or not, I still have the same recommendation for a first step, and it's what I like to call taking inventory, and that is essentially being able to step back and look at what are the things that you're doing on a daily, weekly, even monthly basis, and what are some of the bigger projects that you have going on in your business that you're trying to accomplish. And taking inventory is allowing you to kind of have like a full picture because have you ever had the experience where like you get to the end of the day, you know you've worked really hard, you put in a lot of hours, and then someone asks you what you did, and you're like, I don't know, I did a lot of stuff. I worked. But it's so important for us to have a really good handle on exactly what we're spending our time doing and what those activities are. That's where we're able to identify the things that we do on repeat that we're so accustomed to doing them as entrepreneurs, as business people, that we don't realize how much time, energy, and effort that we're putting into them. So this taking inventory is really just having like a notepad, a sheet of paper, even an online note-taking system. We're able to start recording. Okay, what is it that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis? If you do that for an entire week, I promise you, you will one, be amazed at how you're spending your time because sometimes we spend our time on things that aren't even moving the needle for us. So that can be a huge time saver in and of itself. And number two, we don't realize how often we do some things. And the things that we're doing on repeat daily, weekly, those are really big opportunities for creating systems and processes around to help us become more efficient at doing them. So this taking inventory exercise is super helpful if you're doing it on your own and you just need to really get a handle on what it is you're spending your time doing. And if you are looking to hire someone, it can also be incredibly helpful because you've essentially just documented everything that you're doing and what are the things that you don't want to be doing anymore that you would want to delegate to somebody else. And that's where you have an opportunity to really create a pretty precise, exact job description for what it is you're looking for someone to do for you.
Yeah. Wow. So you played a pretty huge role in systematizing and scaling Entrepreneurs on Fire. Is there a specific system or process that really has made the biggest impact on the success of the podcast?
Well, for the podcast itself, it would definitely be the system that we've created around the interviews and the episodes actually going live. As you know, it's a daily podcast, and even creating just a weekly podcast can be a ton of time and energy and bandwidth. So, to do it on a daily basis, there's really a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes that people may not realize as listeners, or even those new to podcasting just don't, I guess, see like the weight or the depth of the work that goes into creating and publishing a podcast. So, a lot of the systems that we've created around obtaining guests, getting guests signed up for a time slot, having the guests actually show up, doing the interview, the editing, the uploading, creating the social media assets, doing show notes for the website, making sure that the guest is notified that their episode is going live. There's a lot of different moving pieces, and the systems that really John has created the systems for that himself because he's the one like in it. Um, those have been, instrumental to the podcast keeping momentum and consistency over this period of time.
Right. I'm a big believer too that if you're going to do a large form piece of content like a podcast, um, nothing should be wasted. So
Mhm.
repurposing that content into other forms, other platforms, and just optimizing reach and impact through, that you did all that work like you
Right.
just describing. So why not take it and create quote graphics and create mini videos and reels and all the things out of that one piece. So that's a lot that goes behind the scenes too. Um, I think one big problem that a lot of business owners have is just being overwhelmed. The marketplace, and we talk about this a lot because it's a big issue. Everything changes so fast.
Mhm.
Technology is moving at a speed at which 3 months from now there'll be something new and different.
Mhm.
Automation, AI, all of that. How do you balance that big picture thinking with the details of actually running a business?
It's really tough, right? Like, we started this interview out talking about how entrepreneurs are kind of like going in a million different directions at all
Right.
times because we have those ideas and we have like this vision for this bigger thing, and then we hear about something new that everyone has to be doing, or a new piece of software. AI, I mean, AI is changing the game, right? And I'm a big fan of keeping your focus and like the other day John and I were talking about TikTok and something about like, shutting down. Is it shutting down? Is it not shutting down? And it made me realize, like, I never even downloaded TikTok. I don't have an account. I've never even been on TikTok before. And that was something that I was so intentional about because even with how big it blew up and like how important it is for a lot of people in their business and marketing and all of this stuff, for me, that wasn't it wasn't in the periphery of what I was trying to accomplish in my business. I did not need a TikTok account to achieve the goals I wanted to achieve. And I think that that's really the key is there's going to be new software, there's going to be new platforms, there's going to be new ideas, there's going to be new opportunities. And it's so critical that you have uh like precise focus on what it is that you truly want to do with your business, what you're looking to accomplish, what your goals are, what's most important to you. And every time something like that comes along, you have to ask yourself, like, is this going to help me get closer to my goal? Is this going to help me accomplish what I want to accomplish? And if the answer is no, table it, put it on the back burner. And the reason that I say table it, put it on the back burner and not just like totally cut it off is because I don't ever wanna have the feeling, and I don't feel like anybody should ever have the feeling that, like, if you're saying no to something right now, that means you're saying no to it forever.
Right.
Maybe in a year from now, TikTok will be incredibly important. I'm using TikTok as an example just because it's top of mind, but this goes for anything, right? Maybe in 6 months from now, a year from now, it will become important and you can always revisit it. Like, we sometimes have this feeling that this opportunity has come along or this new thing has come into the picture and we have to be on it like right now. And that's not the case. Like, revisit it in 6 months, revisit it in a year, and don't feel like that fear of missing out over things that aren't shouldn't be a focus of yours right now, should not be taking your time because they're really not pushing your goals forward.
And what you're talking about is really like not chasing the shiny object
Mhm.
and staying, what we talk about is I like to think of it in terms of having a filter. So I can look at this and I can filter it through my mission. Does it align with my mission? And I can filter it through my brand and say, does it make sense for my brand? So by having those things in place, it really gives me something to, compare and put something up against and say, does this make sense for me or not? I think that's the trouble that a lot of businesses have is say, should I be X? Should I be
Mhm.
this? Should I be on TikTok even? So if you know who your audience is, you know what your mission is, you know what your brand is, you can filter back through those and make really intelligent, intentional decisions about those things. And I do like what you said about, just saying no now doesn't mean no forever. Cause, I'm that person who has a Trello board that I smack all those ideas onto just because I want to save them for maybe some down the road. It will make sense,
Yeah.
even if it's not right now. So I call it, the label I put on it is parked.
Yep.
Parked
Put it in the
idea.
parking lot.
And we'll come back to it later. Do
Yeah.
you have any like favorite tools? We talked about TikTok, but are there any favorite tools or strategies for managing time, staying productive that you use?
I love Asana. Slack is something I've never gotten into. Trello, I've used it with clients before. Never created, a Trello board myself, but I do like that platform. But Asana for me has kind of been like my go-to. That's where all of my tasks and projects live. In tandem with that, I'm a huge fan of Google Drive. So I do a lot of Google Docs, Google spreadsheets, Google Forms. So I kind of live in like Asana and Google really.
Gotcha. I think for me, I have to be I've learned I have to be careful if I introduce a new tool because if it's not embraced by my team, it's a waste of time and money. Like
Yep.
if if it's too complicated or too hard to learn or whatever, they're just going to be like, nah, we're not
Yeah.
using it. So I have to make sure that everybody buys in and is engaged in it. And then once they are, they don't want to change to anything else. We use teamwork for project management. And if I change from teamwork to something, there would be a riot. Like,
It's really hard to once you're, like, ingrained in a system or once you know something, it's very difficult to change, and that's what makes the landscape so tough is because there are constantly, like, new things coming up and, what is it that, there was Notion. Have you
yeah,
checked out Notion or saying yeah,
yeah,
so, like, I love it. I love everything about it, but I'm so ingrained in Asana that for me to, like, learn a whole new system and go through that whole process, I'm just very hesitant to do it because it
right.
takes time, right? Like, we're talking about saving time, not like and but the thing with some of those platforms is that if you did take the time to get to know them, to fully transition over, it could very well end up saving you a lot of time. So it's kind of like a fine line there.
Right. I think there has to be a benefit analysis of that has a feature we don't currently have, and that feature
Mhm.
is a game changer. So therefore, like we went from Basecamp to Teamwork years ago.
Mhm.
And the reason was Teamwork had time management, and Basecamp was using like a third party integration that did not work well at all. And so we were like, that's so important to us because that's what we do is we sell time.
Mhm.
You talked a lot about having freedom in business. So what does that look like for you? And how can other business owners start building that for themselves?
I mean, freedom in business to me is just not having your business run you, that you actually run your business. And that can feel like it's not happening, especially in the very beginning. And don't get me wrong, there are certainly times where you make a lot of sacrifices and you end up giving a lot to your business to either get it running, to get off the ground, to get to the next level, to hit a certain goal or a launch that you're working on. So I get it. There are times when it can feel like your business is running you, but it's so important to check in with yourself and make sure that you're on the path that you want to be on. So for us in our business, it was always very important to us that we had the type of lifestyle freedom that if we wanted to take a trip or we decided we wanted to move someplace different or we wanted to spend a week with our family just at home not doing anything, that we would be able to do that. And as we were building our business and growing, we started realizing like, wait a second, we're hiring more team, we're launching more products and services, we're basically committing ourselves in our business to bigger, 'cause that's what, everyone said that you're supposed to do with your business. And it was a big time out for us because we thought this is not in alignment with what we say we wanted. This isn't the type of freedom that we wanted in our business. And so we took a step back. We totally cleaned house. We went from a team of 8 with like 10 contractors to a team of 5 with 0 contractors, and we closed a couple of our programs. This happened over several months, of course, it wasn't overnight. Um, but continuously checking in with yourself to say, is this really the type of business that I want? Does it fit with the goals that I have for my lifestyle or what freedom in business means to me? Because it's different for everyone. That's my personal definition. But for you, it might be that you do want a team of 25 and you do want to be launching more and more and more. And that's awesome. As long as you're checking in with yourself and can honestly say, like, okay, I am on the path that I want to be on. This is the commitment that I want to be giving to my business. This is what I want to be getting back from my business. So for us, that was just a very like pivotal moment that we had. And I always like to tell that story because we could have very quickly and easily been on a path where like our lifestyle and the freedom and business that we wanted would have been non-existent if we would have continued on that path according to our definition.
One of the things that was really a struggle for me when I started my business 16 years ago was delegating.
Mm,
It was my baby. Every detail mattered. I was all about excellence. And it would just like stress me to know, just to think about delegating something to someone else and trusting them to do it like I would do it. And so there's a mindset issue around that because you can't ever grow as an entrepreneur unless you're willing to hire the right people, train them well, and trust them to do all the things because you are only one person. You can't do everything if you're going to grow. I mean, if you want to stay a solopreneur, that's great. But if
right.
you want to get beyond that, you're going to need a team to support you. So, can you speak to that a little bit? Because I know that's something a lot of people struggle with. I was in the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, and they flew me up to Babson College. And so I was in this group of like 40, like a little tiny cohort, and they made the remark that we needed to be okay with 80% of the way we would do it. And the whole room in one unison went, huh? Like, no. So I know it's not just me. Maybe speak for
No. Yeah, definitely not, and I so clearly remember the feeling of hiring my first VA and thinking, like, "How am I gonna do this?" Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, or especially, entrepreneurs that are maybe a little more, on the integrator side like I am, we suffer from a lot of perfectionism too. So
yeah,
when you're thinking that it's not being done quite like how you would do it, that is can be, like, a very stressful thing. Um, I think for me, the mindset shift was I need to understand that there's a lot of things that I do great, but there are plenty of things that someone else can do way better than me. And I think that was the key to me kind of getting over myself, getting over that hump of like, I'm a total believer in nobody cares about your business as much as you do. I'm a total believer in that you have to take responsibility for everything that happens in your business, and that's just being an entrepreneur. Like, you have to come to terms with those things, even though you can't do it alone, and you have to put your trust in somebody else to be able to do things that's gonna help you accomplish not only your mission and your goals and all of that, but also help you accomplish whatever your definition of freedom in your business is. Because if y it's kind of like someone who wants the 4-bedroom, 3-bath, backyard, swimming pool, front yard, private drive, gated community home, and that price range is like 1.5 million and their budget's 800,000. Like, you can't have it both, but you can't
right.
have both of those things. And so understanding that there's gonna be plenty of things in your business that someone else can do way better than you can, and really finding who needs to fill that seat, what that seat looks like, and who's best to fill it. And sometimes you don't always get it on the first try, and sometimes you hire someone and you put a ton of time and energy and effort and money into training them and getting them on board, and they don't work out. Like, that's going to happen. So the sooner that you can have the mindset of like, "Okay, this is potentially what's going to happen, but I believe that there is someone out there that's going to be a great member of my team that can do things better than I can. And it might take a while to find that person. It might take a while to find the tasks and the things that are going to be right for them and right for you to hand off. But it's going to be so worth it because on the other side of that is you accomplishing all of those goals, is you finding that freedom in your business. So, it's one of those things where you just kinda have to dive in and do it.
Yeah.
That's that's
Well,
the
and,
best.
my first hire was, of course, like a part-time assistant. That's usually
Mhm.
probably typical, right?
Yeah,
So you're learning to hand things off that you feel are less consequential,
baby
right?
steps.
No, yeah, not necessarily customer facing, but I have improved, and so my
Good.
top 3 team members, like my key management team people, they've been with me 15, 11, and 8 years, so 9 years.
Okay.
So
Wow, that's
yeah, so
incredible.
yeah, and I don't take that for granted because that's a lot of they know me better than me at this
Yeah,
point.
that's
Um,
incredibly unique. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They're awesome. So it tends to be the more lower levels in our company anyway. Those are the positions that change out like 2 or 3 years because they're stepping
Mhm.
stones for
Sure.
people, right? And they're not looking to make a career with my company. They're just looking to get experience so they can go to the next level somewhere else. So I
Right.
understand that going in. So we've done a lot of, setting up video tutorials on those tasks at that level. So we have a little library. So when someone comes in, here's your task you're responsible for, and here's the
Awesome.
videos on how to perform those tasks. Um,
Smart.
so they can reference it and they're not asking me 6 times.
Right, right. No, that's super smart.
So it saves time. Community is such a big part of businesses now. It never used to be that way 20 years ago. I mean, we weren't connected by social media. We're just so much connection now that community is a big part of it. And I also think that customers care more about doing business with companies that they align with. So community is essential to that. What you guys have built a massive community. So obviously you've been very successful in doing that. So what's the key to kind of creating the content or whatever it is that is attracting and retaining that audience for you?
I mean, mainly understanding exactly who they are. I mean, that's such an important part of it. If you put yourself in the shoes of a listener or a community member of yours, and you look at the companies and the brands that you follow and that you feel connected to, it's not just that there's, no personalization, that there's no, um like, you feel like they're actually speaking to you and that they know your likes and your dislikes, and they know, what it is that you're looking for before you even know it. And so a lot of it starts with just really truly understanding who that perfect listener or consumer or client is for you. Because nobody likes to feel like they're, just in the masses of thousands. They wanna feel, how a lot of our listeners put it to us is like, John doesn't just get on the microphone and do an interview with someone, and it's like them 2 are talking and nobody else is involved. Like, he's constantly involving the audience, the listener, in that conversation. And so I think that without understanding who your audience is, that it's gonna be really difficult to do that. So I think that's really the key of where to start with building community.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've seen with small business owners is they don't like the idea that what they do or what they offer isn't for everyone. Like
Mm, mhm.
if you I did a workshop one time, I use this example a lot. I had about 100 business owners in the room and I asked for a volunteer to share what they did. And so lady raises her hand. She tells me she makes handcrafted organic soap. And I said, "And who is your audience?" And she says, "Everyone. Everyone uses soap,
Mm,
but not everybody is going to use handcrafted organic soap because there's a premium, right? So
right.
not everybody's going to value that. So your audience is actually more of a niche. And I
Mhm.
think the more you can niche, the more relevant your message becomes too. Like you were saying, like you just speaking to your audience on that emotional and relevant level is just so powerful.
Absolutely.
And it's so one of the things with a podcast as successful as yours, I think this is my 85th episode, and I consider that
That's
way.
amazing,
I've been at
yeah.
it for a couple of years, right? But you guys have hundreds and hundreds of episodes. So how do you keep that fresh? How do you like keep that relevant? And when you've had that, I mean, that many.
Right. Well, for John, he's been so committed since day 1 of how can I become the best interviewer and presenter of ideas and, uh, expertise to my audience to where that's gonna be of maximum value to them, and it's gonna keep me, like, excited and engaged too. And there have been a couple different changes that he's made on the podcast, like, for the first 2,000 episodes, it was a 7-day-a-week show. Every single interviewee got the same 5 questions, and then there was a lightning round at the end. And around episode 2,000, he completely switched it up. He actually, for a while, went to 3 interviews a week, and, the format changed. It was no longer those same 5 questions, and I think that he felt for him and he felt for his audience that there needed to be like an evolution, right? So many of our listeners had been with us for such a long time. That was, 5 years in at that point, that it was time to evolve with them, that no longer did they need to hear those same 5 answers from different people because they had progressed on their journey, and the inspiration, the motivation, the information that they needed, wanted and needed from the podcast was different. And for John too, how many times can you ask someone the same exact question? I mean,
Right.
sure, you're getting a different answer from everyone, but, so he's made some changes like that on the podcast that have really helped him, like, take it to the next level, and so those types of changes, I think, have helped keep it, like, very relevant and fresh for him as well. And, when you're a lot of people ask us, like, I have multiple different ideas for a podcast or for a business. Like, how do I know which one is right? And oftentimes we talk about the idea being right if it's something that you can see yourself doing 5 or 10 years from now. Like, what are you truly going to be interested in long enough that you're not going to have that feeling of like, okay, I'm bored of this, or it doesn't matter that much to me anymore. Of course, you can never 100% know that for absolute sure, but entrepreneurship, inspiring people, helping other people build their business and lifestyle freedom, that's just something that, John knew and that I knew. I would never get tired of that. I came from a corporate background. I grew up not even knowing that entrepreneurship existed. So at the ripe age of like 30 or whatever I was when I actually found out what entrepreneurship was, and that you didn't have to go to a job that you hated and that you didn't have to sit in a cubicle thinking like, when's it going to be 5 o'clock? I just thought that that's what everyone did. And when I found out that there was another way, that there was something that you could do, that you could love and thrive and create this type of lifestyle freedom, that you could do whatever you wanted every day. And even when you were working, it didn't feel like work. I wanted to share that with as many people as possible. So if you find something like that that you're so passionate about, that really moves you and keeps you lit up, you're not going to get tired of spreading that message.
Well, I think this next question, I just want to tap into your wealth of experience. And let's explore some common mistakes that you see entrepreneurs make when they're trying to build their business. What are some, from your point of view, what are some common mistakes you see?
I mean, I think a big one is kind of what we've talked about already, and that's just feeling like you need to kind of keep up or do what everyone else is doing or what everyone else is talking about. XYZ is the hot new thing, and this is what every business owner should be doing. Not everything is gonna be right for every business. So, I think one of the biggest mistakes is people thinking like, they have this idea for their business and this vision and this dream of what they want it to be, and then they change paths because somebody tells them they have to have a podcast, or somebody tells them they have to be on YouTube, or somebody tells them they have to launch a subscription product, and that none of those were their idea to begin with, and none of those are what's gonna help their business become what they want it to become. That you have to have like the strength and the courage and the discipline and the focus to say, that's not my path. Again, it can be like maybe at some point a podcast or a YouTube channel or a subscription product, like maybe at some point those will be right for your business, but you really have to be so intentional about staying true to like, that's not part of my vision. Maybe I'll revisit it later, but not being able to stay focused is one of the biggest mistakes that I see over and over again. And it's
Yeah.
hard. I'm like, yeah, I've done it too. It's very difficult.
Well, and I think in some cases, the reason that it's hard for them to stay focused is they lack the clarity of
Mm.
a goal,
Yep.
right? And so they're just kind of wandering around trying to find their way to something they'll know it when they see it kind of idea. And if you're
Absolutely.
kind of in that place, I mean, just talking to a coach or a mentor and having them drill you with what, this, that, the other, it starts to come out like, and it starts to help them narrow that and get clarity on where it is they truly want to go so that they can take those action steps to get there.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and even if you don't have the funds, or you don't, a mentor or a coach isn't in your arsenal right now, like talk with a friend, find somebody else who's an entrepreneur who is also trying to start a business. Like there are so many opportunities to have these conversations that it's not just going to come out of nowhere. Like you have to do the work, you have to put in the time and have the tough conversations, ask yourself the tough questions. And sometimes that can come out just in conversations with friends too. So, doesn't have to be like a paid mentor or something.
Yeah, build the tribe. What
Yeah.
what are some of the most challenging moments in your entrepreneurial journey?
Moving to Puerto Rico and kind of getting our business like on a new, we had to change like credit card processors and our merchant account changed. Kind of navigating a lot of that was really difficult just because I do deal with so much of that back end stuff in our business. That was like a whole new learning curve for me. Of course, when we first started out, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I didn't know what entrepreneurship was. When I joined the team with John to build this business, I had no idea what I was doing. Just like an overall learning curve of figuring out like what it means to run a business, what it means to be in charge of your own schedule and your own agenda. I came from a world where I constantly had a boss or like somebody higher up than me telling me what to do, and I'd go do it. And when you're an entrepreneur, you don't have anyone telling you what to do. You got to figure it out. So that was certainly a challenge as well. But yeah, I would say those two things stand out in my mind for sure.
As we wrap up, what are one or two key takeaways from today's episode that you really want the audience to remember? I think a lot of times we listen to podcasts and we think the whole way through, oh, that's nice. But then we get to the end and we've forgotten a lot of that key information. So what are some one or two points that you really want to stay?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the part that was very life-changing and affected our business so much for me was that point that I talked about, where we kind of had like a moment where we said, "Wait a second, are we building the business that we want, or are we building a business that everybody else says that we should have?" And I really hope that those tuning in think about that. Like, where are you at right now on your journey, and what path are you headed down with your business, and is that where you wanna go? And I think that those check-in points can be, they can help you learn and grow so much, but they can also prevent you from going down a path that, you don't wanna be down. So, I really think that checking in with yourself on that is super important, and I'll go back to the very beginning of the episode too. I mean, when we're talking about systems and time management and potentially hiring other people for your team, that taking inventory exercise to really understand how it is that you're spending your time can be so, so critical. Even if it's just like an exercise for you to, again, understand like what tasks you might be working on that are not moving the needle for your business that you could probably completely cut from your task list. I mean, I think that everyone tuning in would appreciate free time back. So I would point to that as well.
I just want to say thank you for being here, Kate. This has been a great episode and lots of great information. We've had a ton of technical difficulties and we've been there with me, and I appreciate that. Thank
Yeah,
you so
no
much for
worries.
being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. I enjoyed our chat.